For thousands of years, mankind has pursued wisdom. We've gone to all kinds of lengths to become wise in our own eyes and also wise in the lives of others. But what is the road to wisdom? What does it look like to achieve wisdom? We're starting a new series today in the book of Proverbs, and we're going to be talking about that very thing, the road to wisdom, and what are the steps that we need to take? And then ask ourselves the question, are we on the road? We'll be talking about that when we come right back. Hi, and welcome to Bible Study with Friends, where our goal is to help you have more impact in your Bible studies. And today I'm starting a whole new series with a new friend, Tommy Thompson. He is with us from Baton Rouge, and I'm over in Utah, and we're going to do this study. How are you doing, Tommy?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm excited about starting this. I've wanted to do this study for a long time. We're going to be in the book of Proverbs, talking about the theme that runs through the book of Proverbs. Now, you might be aware of Proverbs is a book of loose little pieces of wisdom. In fact, it's called Wisdom Literature. And our series title is called Proverbs, the Book of Wisdom. But we're going to see a theme that runs through the entire book of Proverbs. And we're going to take some time and really look at that theme, Tommy, and that'll give us a kind of a comprehension. And when we go back and look at these individual little pieces of wisdom, we can do that in light of this theme that we see. Are you ready to get going?
Oh, yeah.
Now, the theme that we see in the book of Proverbs is wrapped up in three words that we see over and over again. The three words are wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. It's interesting. Sometimes the order is wisdom to knowledge, wisdom, understanding, knowledge, and sometimes it's knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. And so we'll see that as we go. But the first thing that I did, Tommy, when we start something new like this, and we've read the book of Proverbs and we've noticed these repeated words, we go to a concordance and we look up the word wisdom. And we just go through the book of Proverbs and just mark the word wisdom everywhere it appears. And then we do the same thing for understanding and the same thing for knowledge. And then we look at those highlighted words and we start to see where they are clumped together. And we're going to look at some of those today. Now, here's my markings for the book of Proverbs. The word knowledge is in blue, understanding is in orange, and wisdom is in green. That's just arbitrary colors. They don't mean anything other than for the book of Proverbs. Every time I see a blue highlight, it's the word knowledge, and same for understanding and wisdom. Okay, that makes sense? Don't try to remember some complicated marking system of symbols or colors. Certain color means certain things. Because as you go through the Bible, different books, that starts to get really cumbersome. So what I do is I just pick for a particular book that I'm doing, pick a color that will run through that book. All right. So one thing I did was I took knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Now, you might say that's a fluke that those are mentioned together. That's not the case. We're going to see all through Proverbs, but I want to show you the same words used in the New Testament. Turn over to Colossians chapter 1, verse 9.
And so from the day we heard, we have not ceased to pray for you, asking that you may be filled with the knowledge of his will in all spiritual wisdom and understanding.
Wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. So this is not a isolated thing when we see these words together. In Colossians, it's a prayer request. I'm praying for you for knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. So New Testament, Old Testament, these are important words to look at and to consider for us. if these are a process or a stepping stone from immaturity to maturity, then I want to know what those are and be able to look at them. I went and looked up the definitions of these words, and I started from wisdom and went to knowledge. And I want to just go through them very quickly with us, Tommy. The word wisdom comes from a Hebrew word that basically means shrewdness, experience, or technical skill.
Okay. Yeah.
So the idea of achieving wisdom would be to achieve a shrewdness in life, not a sneakiness, but a shrewdness in approaching situations based upon experience and technical skill. All right. The word understanding in the Hebrew means to see or comprehend or to consider or examine. Mm-hmm. So if I have a truth in Scripture and I want to get an understanding of that, I would see it. I need to comprehend it, examine it, consider it. That's right. Understanding.
Okay.
Then the word knowledge in the Hebrew is taking in information and holding that information. So it would be, if I have information coming in, I need to not only have it come in and pass out the other ear, but I need to have it come in and hold it. So based upon that information held, I get a comprehension or a consideration. I think about that information, and that gives me a shrewdness or a skill in approaching circumstances. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, I put it into easy to think through. Knowledge is information. Understanding, internalization. And wisdom is application or action. Okay? So as we approach verse 1, why don't you read from verse 1 to verse 3, and then I'll read 4 to 7. So you go ahead and do that. We're going to read straight through, and then we'll come back.
Okay. The Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to understand words of insight, to receive instruction in wise dealing, in righteousness, justice, and equity, to give prudence to the simple, knowledge and discretion to the youth.
Okay. A wise man will hear and increase in learning, and a man of understanding will acquire wise counsel. To understand a proverb and a figure, the words of the wise and their riddles. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. Now, we saw in this, Tommy, another word repeated other than wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, and that's this word instruction right here. We go instruction, down here, instruction and instruction. All right. So I went and looked up what instruction meant. And instruction basically means an exhortation or a discipline. It can even mean rebuking. So it can be like a teacher that you get the wrong answer. It could be where the teacher rebukes you and say, "Oh, that's not right. Here's the right answer." Okay. So you might say the way we get knowledge, and that leads to understanding and wisdom, is through instruction. And for us, biblically, the place that we get instruction, exhortation, discipline of sound doctrine and correct living is through the Scriptures. So if you say, well, I want to be wise, the next question I would ask you is, okay, where are you going to go for instruction?
Yeah.
Be wise. And we can go to worldly wisdom, or we can go to godly wisdom. And if we're going to be, you've heard the term worldly wise can be in the ways of the world, and that may not be that edifying to us. So we want to find godly wisdom. So looking back at those three words, I want godly knowledge, I want godly understanding, and I want godly wisdom. Yeah. Because I want to live a life that is a godly life. If I want to live a godly life, I'm not going to go to instruction from the History Channel.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the Bible to get that sound, wise instruction. The book of Proverbs is written primarily by Solomon, but there are two other authors. There's one called Agur. Look at Proverbs chapter 30, verse 1. He is writing. And the other is King Lemuel. And King Lemuel is writing in Proverbs 31. A lot of the stuff about a godly wife is written by King Lemuel. So you have primarily, and for the most part, the book of Proverbs coming from Solomon. And he says, I'm the son of David, and I'm king in Israel. So this is really before Solomon became corrupted by his riches and drug, sex, and rock and roll, right? But this is when he's king. He is the wise king, and he's giving us some of his wisdom. In fact, it's directed towards his son, but we're going to listen in as flies in the wall. All right. There's an interesting thing. If you look from verse 2 down to verse 4, look at the verb. The reason he is writing Proverbs, the reason for the writing of the book of Proverbs to us, the reader. Look at these verbs: to know, to discern, to receive, to give, right? So paying attention to not only words, but also whether they're verbs or nouns, and wisdom, understanding, and knowledge are nouns. To get those nouns, he wants to give us some verbs, all right? Okay. And he says, the reason I'm writing this is so that you can know wisdom and instruction. Instruction would be the way we get wisdom, all right? Okay. And to discern, that's this idea of discerning would be more comprehension. So he wants you to know wisdom, but he wants you to discern the sayings of understanding and to receive instruction in wise behavior. And that wise behavior is made up of righteousness, justice, and equity. So if I want to live a life where I'm living correct action is righteousness, and justice is fairness, and equity is a word we'd use for my life is a good balance. It has equity. It has integrity would be another great word.
Integrity, yeah.
Okay. So I want to live a life where all the systems in my life are functioning well. There's equity in all the different aspects of my life. I'm not great in one aspect and terrible in another. And that's this idea of I want you to receive instruction of understanding, to receive wise behavior, righteousness, justice, equity, to give prudence to the naive, and to the youth, knowledge and discretion. Now, what is prudence?
What I wrote is the ability to govern or discipline yourself by the use of reason.
Okay.
A good reason.
If I'm going to be prudent, I'm going to approach something not crazy. I'm going to approach something thinking about it and really being prudent in my action. Okay. And it says, I'm writing this to you, Solomon would say, to give prudence to the naive. Now let's talk about the word naive a little bit. In fact, in your version, do you have a number by your word naive? That little number right there?
No, I don't.
Right. I'm using the New American Standard. What are you using for translation?
I have ESV.
Okay, ESV is fine. But if we look over at that word under verse 4, and we go over to verse 4, that word naive means simpleness.
All That's right? The word that I have. That's the word that I have is simple.
Okay, simple. It's to give prudence and to give prudent to the simple. Now, the simple would be, if I'm naive, I'm going to approach things and just take them at face value.
Yeah.
I'm not going to really think it through. And he says, I'm giving the naive a way of really seeing this through.
Makes sense.
Now, it's been my observation, Tommy, that Christians can be very naive. Somebody will say, God bless you. And they go, oh, they're a Christian.
Right.
Because they said, God bless you. Or I remember one time I was watching Billy Graham, and this was back in the 70s, and Billy Graham had Richard Nixon on the podium with him and just said, it's great to have Richard Nixon with us tonight. He later wrote in his biography that was one of the biggest ministry mistakes he ever made, because the naive said, oh, Richard Nixon is there with Billy. Richard Nixon is this great man of God. This is great. I'm going to vote for him. And then we heard the tapes, the secret tapes, and Richard Nixon was cursing and taking the name of the Lord in vain, and obviously not a Christian man by any means. But we don't want to be naive.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be naive Christians.
Yeah, one of the things that I've learned in the last little while is the importance of words, the importance of the meanings of the words that we use. And actually, not too long ago, I had a discussion about the same thing, about using God bless you in public. Is definitely in our time, definitely postmodern society, we're dealing with people who have different meanings for what that stands out to be.
Yeah.
And because you have people who say God, we could be talking about different gods.
One of my pet peeves is, oh my God.
Yeah.
To say that without thinking about what you're actually saying. Now, as Christians, we can pray, oh my God, and we mean he is our God. We have a relationship with him. But to say it as it's almost like a curse word almost.
Yeah.
And it's a pet peeve that, oh my God, or OMG. I just don't like it. It's not prudent. It's not
right.
It actually shows a naivete of what you're saying. And Christians are guilty of that. And we need to be careful, like you said, about words. And if we're applying, instruction to knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, we're going to think about those words. We're going to internalize that. And then it's going to apply to wisdom in living.
My wife thinks I have too many pet peeves.
We won't list your pet peeves then. It would take too
long.
All right, let's go back and look at this now. Now that we've kind of gotten some foundation, let's look at this. The Proverbs of Solomon, verse 2, to know wisdom. Okay? The ultimate goal is us to have a comprehension, a knowledge of wisdom, not just facts, but have an understanding of wisdom, how to act. And this is going to go from wisdom down to knowledge now. So this is from the wise to the naive. So let's look. To know wisdom, that's my goal for you, Solomon would say, and to discern the sayings of understanding, to be able to receive instruction in wise behavior. So that's wise behavior is wisdom. Again, to be able to take understanding and knowledge and apply them to situations in a ways that you're acting wisely. And
not simply.
Not simply, yeah. And to give prudence to that naive person. And then he says, to the youth, knowledge and discretion. It's just kind of give an idea that the time to be getting knowledge, information, is for the young. Now, that can be young in age, but it can also be young in maturity. So if I become a brand new Christian and I've just accepted Christ, I'm going to really be naive about a lot of things spiritual, and I'm going to be naive about the way to live. I just don't know. That's why Paul said you need instruction, not just milk. You need instruction in sound doctrine.
Right.
So this idea is for the young to start to acquire. If I'm young and I say I want to be wise, I need instruction in knowledge. I need to be able to take that information and hold it. And then I need to be able to comprehend it, understand it. And then I want to be able to apply it to everyday situations in my life.
Yeah.
Now, let's think of an example of those steps. If we are a young Christian or a young person, and I want to get understanding, I need to first seek out knowledge. The way I get knowledge is somebody's got to teach me knowledge. Why do I want to go to school? Because it's a way of acquiring knowledge. Now, I might have to think about that knowledge a lot to get comprehension. And I may not get comprehension until I get out of school. And it may be a
Sure.
conversation with somebody more mature that starts to give me understanding. And then I can apply that understanding, that comprehension, to become wise in my action,
Hmm.
become prudent, to become measured in what I'm going to do. I use the idea of putting a finger in your fan. When you're
Yeah.
little, you say to a little one, my instruction to you is do not put your finger in a moving fan because it will hurt. That's knowledge. That's information. And the kid's going, I got to think about that. And maybe even walk up to a fan, really see that thing whirling. As Dad says, that's going to hurt if I stuck my finger in there.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to. That's understanding. But some of us who are stubborn, our way of getting understanding might be to stick our finger in.
Yeah.
And we get that ouch, that hurt. That's understanding. Now, wisdom might be, I'm looking at a lawnmower spinning and I'm going, I know from my knowledge and my understanding of the knowledge, that thing is moving very quickly. And if I put my finger in there, it's going to hurt.
Yeah.
That's wisdom. Now, Dad may never have said, don't put your finger in a lawnmower. But I am applying the knowledge and understanding that I got from him to apply to wisdom. And that's what Proverbs, that's what Solomon is trying to do for us. He's saying, look, kids, look, you younger people, whether it's maturity-wise young or age-wise young, said, I want to give you knowledge.
Yeah.
To the youth, knowledge. And discretion would be an application of that knowledge to be able to understand them, internalize them, get them there so that we can know wisdom. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for discretion, I mean, I even put just being able to decide what to do or what to do in any situation.
Decision and discretion, very similar. Okay?
Yeah.
I want to make a decision in life in any situation I come up with. I want to make a godly decision based upon a godly discretion on godly instruction, knowledge of godly action, and wisdom in godly action. And that's really the theme we're going to explore. We're going to look at this in other places. We're going to see it go from wisdom down to knowledge. And then we're going to see from knowledge, I need to get understanding and get wisdom. And we're going to see that progression in both directions. So the more mature we want to give to the less mature, to the immature, we want to find somebody that can help us achieve wisdom in our life. And these steps, this is the road to wisdom. We've been talking about this idea of living according to knowledge and understanding and wisdom and how that can guide us through life. I want to recommend a video to you. It's called Wisdom for Living from the book of James. And I hope you enjoy it. Listen, we're going to continue in our study in the book of Proverbs next week. And until then, God bless you.